Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my recipe for karhi with shrimp. Now this recipe was requested by one of my uncles, so this recipe is dedicated to him. For any of you guys who do not know what karhi is, basically it is pholourie that is soaked in a dhal gravy. The dhal gravy has some curry powder, a little bit of masala, and those classic curry spices. And in today's video, I'm not going to make the traditional vegetarian version. I'm going to be adding in some juicy large shrimps. So if you guys want to see how I put this together, please keep on watching. So the first step of this recipe is to work on the dhal or the split peas. Now the split peas are going to be used for two parts of this dish. One part is going to be for the pholourie, and one part is going to be for the gravy of the dish. So I have some split peas. I soaked them overnight. Now if you don't have time to soak them overnight, you can soak them for about 1 to 2 hours in boiling hot water, and that should soften them up just fine. Now once you finish soaking them, you're going to go ahead and grind them in your food processor, or you can use a mortar and pestle until it gets very, very fine. Now you want to try to not use much water as you're grinding it. I think I only used about half a cup of water as I grind all of the split peas that I had, so make sure you have a good quality blender as you're doing so. Just go ahead and put a little batch in the blender and go ahead and keep on grinding until you get a fine paste. Make sure you scrape down the edges so this way you get everything evenly ground up. So after you finish grinding up all of your split peas in your food processor, you should get a nice fine paste like this. Remember, you do not want any big chunks of split peas or the dhal in there, or else it's not going to make a nice smooth gravy and it is not going to make a nice crispy pholourie. It's going to be too dense and the dhal is going to be too crispy. It won't cook out properly. So you're just going to go ahead, continue grinding the rest of your dhal until you get a nice fine paste such as this. So as usual, all of the proper ingredients and measurements will be down in the description box below. So basically I used 2 cups of split peas that I went ahead and soaked. After I soak the split peas and grind them, it turns into 4 cups of ground split peas. The reason being is just because it absorbs all that water and it doubles in size. So out of the 4 cups, I'm reserving 3 cups to make my pholourie, and I'm reserving just about 1 cup to make my dhal gravy for the karhi. Now once you've ground up all of your split peas and you've set about 1 cup out of the 4 cups aside for the gravy, you're going to start to work on the freshly ground seasoning that you're going to put into the pholourie batter. So in my mortar and pestle, I have some garlic cloves as well as 2 wiri peppers that I'm using, and I'm going to go ahead and pound them up until I get a very fine paste. Again, I'm going to be using this paste to flavor the pholourie, so this way it can have some nice flavor as you are eating it. Now once you've gone ahead and ground all of your split peas and then ground all of your fresh seasonings, that garlic and the hot pepper, it's time to work on the pholourie. So in my bowl here, this is the 3 cups of ground split peas that I had ground up. Remember, I still have 1 cup reserved to the side. That'll be used later for the gravy. But in this bowl for the pholourie, I'm going in with a little bit of salt to taste. I'm going to go in with some turmeric, also known as dye to Guyanese people. That's going to give it a really beautiful yellow color. And then I'm also going to go in with my fresh seasonings that I just ground up. Again, that is just the garlic as well as the hot pepper. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and grind up some cilantro in this, or you can use some green seasoning, or you can even use a whole bunch of other things that you may desire to put into your pholourie for the karhi. Now once you've added your fresh seasonings and spices into the ground split peas, you're just going to mix them up really well until everything is well combined. Once all of your fresh seasonings and spices are mixed into the ground split peas, you're going to go in with a little bit of baking powder as well as some all-purpose flour. Now a little word for all of you guys. Many people, when they make karhi, they do not use any baking powder in the pholourie mixture just because they like the pholourie to be super, super dense. If you want to omit the baking powder, feel free to do so, but my grandmother totally recommends it just because it allows the pholourie to soak up more of that dhal mixture and it makes for a more enjoyable pholourie. I do not like when the pholourie is super, super, super dense in the karhi. And as for the amount of flour that I'm using, I'm going to leave my measurement down below for how much flour you may need to use, but depending on the amount of water you added into the split peas as you ground them up determines the amount of flour that you'll need to add in. As you guys can see, we want a really, really thick pholourie batter. We do not want something that is thin, runny, or way too sticky. So you're just going to have to go ahead and gauge it until you get the texture that you see here. Remember, be careful you don't add in too much water as you are grinding the split peas. So I finished mixing my pholourie batter and I'm ready to start frying. It does not need to rest, it doesn't need to sit to raise or anything like that. You can fry it right away. So in my heavy bottom pot, I've heated up my oil on a medium to medium high heat and I am dropping my pholourie in. Basically, I'm just shaping it in between my fingers to get a rough ball shape. They're not going to be super, super round. And honestly, you actually want them to have a little bit of misshapedness to them. The reason being is because it creates more crunchy surface area for that gravy to soak up in and flavor it even more. So I'm going to keep dropping them into my pan. As you guys can see, I'm just going to show you guys the motion that I'm using, basically grabbing up a little piece and forming it within my fingers just as my grandmother would do it, and I'm just dropping it in. If you wanted to use one of those mini ice cream scoops, you can go ahead and do so, but I recommend doing it this way only because by packing it in between your hands, they're not super, super loose, and it'll help you get the right texture for your pholourie. Now, once you add your pholourie in, you want to go ahead and just start to move them around a little bit so this way all of the different sides are coated with that oil and they can all fry evenly on all sides. Now, basically what you're looking for is a really nice golden brown color with your pholourie. Make sure you go ahead and regulate your heat because, again, if it is too hot, then they are going to get too brown on the outside and they're not going to cook properly on the inside. If these don't cook properly on the inside, once you go ahead and toss them into your gravy later on, they will become super hard and super gummy on the inside, and that's absolutely not what you want. Now, once they achieve a beautiful golden brown color, you're going to go ahead and transfer them onto a plate that you've lined with a paper towel. That's just going to go ahead and help you soak up any of that excess oil that may be left on your pholourie. Now, another way to know if your pholourie is done is you're actually going to feel that they are much lighter when you put them onto your spoon. They're going to feel and weigh much lighter than when you first put them into the pot. That's because the dhal has cooked down on the inside. So here are all my beautiful pholourie that have been fried to perfection. Now, I'm being honest, guys, as soon as these come out of the hot oil, you just want to go ahead and snack on them, but then you end up reminding yourself that these are for the karhi, so you have to save them for that gravy later on. So set these aside, and we're going to work on the shrimp to go in this karhi with shrimp. So now that our pholourie is done frying and we have set aside that little bit of ground dhal for the gravy later on, we can go ahead and work on the shrimp that's going to go into the karhi. So I have these beautiful large shrimp. They still have the heads on, the tails, and just all of the different parts. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean them really well, devein them, peel them, and do all of that good stuff, and then wash them with a little bit of lime and some salt to get rid of any rankness. Now, once your shrimp have been cleaned, it is time to work on a little curry paste that we are going to use to put together the shrimp part of the dish as well as the karhi part of the dish. So into my bowl, I have the rest of my garlic and hot pepper that I went ahead and ground up earlier. I'm going to go in with a little bit of curry powder, and I'm also going to go in with a little bit of masala. Now, this masala is homemade masala that my family and I made. Now, if you don't have access to homemade masala, you can go ahead and purchase your favorite West Indian brand masala from the West Indian or Indian store. So after you add in your curry powder as well as the masala, you're going to go ahead and mix it really well into that garlic and pepper paste. You may also want to go in with just a little touch of water to loosen it a bit. And I wanted to let you guys know that some of this will be used to go ahead and make the gravy for the karhi, and some of this will be used to bunjay the shrimp or curry the shrimp before we add it to the karhi. So this is going to be used for two purposes today. So in order to bunjay or curry the shrimp a little bit, we're going to start off in a pan that I've heated up on a medium to medium high heat, and I'm going to go in with some oil as well as some sliced onions. Basically, I'm going to fry down these onions for just about 30 seconds. And after your onions have cooked down for just about 30 seconds, maybe they might start to get a little bit of a golden brown tinge to them. You're going to go ahead and add in half of your curry paste that you made. Again, we're using half of the curry paste to bunjay the shrimp, and we're going to use the other half for the karhi gravy later on. So stay tuned for that. Once you've added in your curry paste, you're just going to keep on mixing it around until it is well combined with the onions as well as that hot oil, and until it cooks down. I'm going to be cooking mine for about 5 to 6 minutes until it starts to turn grainy and the oil begins to release from the spice mixture again. Now, once your spice mixture has fried down or sauteed with those onions for about 5 to 6 minutes, and once you see that it starts to turn a little grainy and the oil starts to release back from the spice mixture, it is time to go in with your shrimp. Remember, these are those large shrimp that I cleaned before. They are beautiful and they're pink and they are large. They're just going to be very juicy and succulent when I bunjay it in this curry mixture and then add it to my karhi later on. So basically, I'm just going to keep on stirring these around and cooking them down until they release any of their natural juices and they begin to really start to fry up and brown in the curry spices. I'm also going to go in with a little piece of tomato. Now, in place of using tamarind in my karhi, which is traditional to karhi, I'm going to use a little bit of tomato in the shrimp, and that's going to give the entire dish a little bit of a tang and a sour taste and act in place of the tamarind. So at this point, my shrimp has been cooking for about 4 minutes. The cooking time is going to definitely vary on the type of shrimp or the size of shrimp that you're using. I went in with a little bit of salt to taste, and at this point, I'm ready to just take it off of the heat and set it aside before I add it into my karhi later on. Now, you'd want the gravy to be very thick and clinging to the shrimp, and that's how you know it'll be done. So this dish may seem a little bit confusing to all of you guys, but please go ahead and bear with me because this is something so delicious that I know you will enjoy. Now, once you finish making the pholourie and once you finish making that shrimp, it is time to work on the gravy for the karhi to bring it all together. So in a heavy bottom pot, I went in with a little bit of oil and I went in with the second half of my curry paste. Basically, I'm going to fry this around or saute it in that oil again until it turns grainy and until that oil is released back from my spice mixture. This is going to take about 5 to 6 minutes on a medium to medium high heat. So remember that 1 cup of ground split peas that we had reserved earlier? We are going to go ahead and use this to make the gravy for the karhi. So into this ground split peas, I'm going to go in with some water. And basically what we are forming is a very, very thin and wet batter that's going to help us make this gravy. Now it's going to look very watery, it's going to look very thin and not so appetizing, but trust me, once we add it into the pot and it cooks down, it is going to get very, very thick and make a luscious sauce for that karhi. So I'm also going to go in with some salt before I add in my water, and I'm just going to continue mixing it up until I get a very, very thin consistency. Again, all of my ingredients and the proper measurements will be down in the description box below. I'll have it all broken down for you guys so you can put this dish together effortlessly. Now, once you've made that thin batter with the split peas, a little bit of salt, and that water, you're going to go ahead and turn back your attention to the pot where you had your curry mixture cooking down. As you guys can see, it has started to catch or stick a little bit at the bottom. It's turned grainy, and that oil has started to separate back from the mixture. So at this point, you want to raise your heat to a medium to medium high heat if it is not already there, and you're going to add in your thin batter that you made from the split peas. Basically, what you're trying to do here is create the gravy for the karhi. So I'm going to stir this around, get everything picked up from the bottom of the pot, and allow this to thicken for a little bit. Once you see that this mixture starts to come up to a boil, you're going to go ahead and lower the heat just a little bit. The reason being is because if you keep it on too much of a high heat, it can thicken too fast and it can actually become lumpy. So this is exactly what you're looking for as far as the texture. You want to let it boil for maybe about 5 to 10 minutes, or it can take up to 15 minutes just depending on how thin and watery your dhal batter was. But basically, once it gets a nice thick texture and a gravy-like texture, you can go in with all of your pholourie. And as soon as you add in that pholourie, you're going to see that it starts to soak up all of that beautiful velvety gravy. Now, I wanted to mention, if your batter or your gravy looks a little too thin still, just remember that as it sits and as the pholourie soaks it up, it will thicken up even more. So once it's cooler, it will be more thick. So don't go ahead and boil it too much, or else if it is too thick, it won't be enjoyable to eat over rice or alongside roti. Now, once you add all of your pholourie pieces in, you're going to see all of these little bubbles forming around the pot. Now, that is not the actual gravy boiling. That is the pholourie soaking up all of those liquids. They're going to become super succulent on the inside. Now, at this point, I am also going to go in with my shrimp that I went ahead and I bunjayed or curried down before. And again, that shrimp is going to be super succulent, super juicy inside of this karhi, and it's going to add such another depth of flavor from your normal vegetarian karhi. So you're just going to mix everything together until it is well combined. Now for the last step of this karhi, just to finish it off and give it even more of a beautiful flavor, we are going to chunke it with some jeera or cumin seeds. So in a little saucepan, I've added in some oil, and on a high heat, I want to roast those cumin seeds until they get super dark brown. And after about a minute, you're going to see that they get a super dark brown color. Now, if you like them to be burnt and black, that is totally up to you, but I prefer mine just to be on a little bit of a dark brown side. So basically, you're just going to throw it on top of your karhi, and then your karhi is done. You're going to go ahead and mix it through, give the entire dish a quick taste for salt, and maybe if you want to add in some more pepper, but basically that is it. Your karhi is done and it is ready to serve. Now again, guys, keep in mind, everybody makes these dishes differently. This is the way that my uncle's mom made it for him growing up with the shrimp. The shrimp is not traditional by any means, but I decided to share it with you guys because I really like the flavor that the shrimp imparted. So if you guys enjoyed my twist for this classic Guyanese dish, karhi with shrimp, please go ahead and give this video a nice big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed yet, and of course leave your wonderful comments down below Let me know what you thought of this dish and let me know what you guys would like me to make next. I'll see you guys again very soon in my next video. Until next time guys, bye.